My name is Elizabeth, and that is a hard talk to follow. However, I'm here to talk to you about my hobby. I'm a grad student here at Johns Hopkins, but what I really care about doing in my spare time is educating the public about science and sort of counteracting a lot of the bad information we get from the media on a daily basis. And I'm here to give you some strategies on how to do that and why it's important, and give you a few little tools to do that. So 93% of US doctors vaccinate their own children on the standard schedule. 97% of climate scientists believe in anthropomorphic climate change. These things are not in dispute in the scientific community. However, the numbers are a little bit different when you get to the American public. They're about 60% in both cases. And that's a problem. These are important issues. So what can you do? And the answer is educate yourself, get yourself some communication skills, and talk to the people in your everyday life, and change the status quo towards the scientific consensus. And I realize that that's difficult. Educating yourself takes time. We have other commitments. We have other causes that we may care about. But you know, the payoff is a stronger, healthier, more scientifically literate society. And the first step in that is to know your audience. Whether you're sitting around a kitchen table or you're on national television, it's important to understand that the psychology of people who think that they know what they're talking about is very different from someone with a casual interest. You are not going to convince McCarthy to start vaccinating her children, or Senator Inhofe to support climate change legislation, or the food babe to believe in chemistry. However, even the most motivated reasoner can change with time. Recent research has shown that if you give people information, they can change their mind slowly over time. Which brings us to the seemingly obvious idea that you shouldn't attack people's most basic beliefs, if you can avoid it. It turns out that it's better to help people integrate new information into the framework they already have for their lives. Teaching Big Bang cosmology or even human evolution doesn't require you to attack people's faith beliefs. In the same vein, acknowledging the fact of climate change doesn't presuppose that you're a liberal. The goal is to share knowledge in a way that your audience can understand, which leads me to the idea of being straightforward. Scientists are trained to give caveats and statistics, but human brains don't do statistics, turns out. And especially if you're a credentialed expert in a field, it's best if you give an unequivocal statement and then give the caveats and then give the statistics. Some ideas, evolution by natural selection, the efficacy of vaccines, are so well established that in rhetorical context, they can be treated as fact. And sometimes even those statements of fact aren't enough, humans being humans. So sometimes you'll need to reach for an anecdote. And, you know, humans are fundamentally drawn to a narrative. The facts are necessary, but usually not sufficient to counter emotional arguments. Anecdotes have been used extensively in the service of misinformation. And on top of that, the internet is full of images like these, which are effectively visual anecdotes to jog your emotions. But the stories of science are compelling as well. They beg to be told, and they can invoke the same reaction that reactionary images can. And you do need to remember that sometimes you can't always draw on your personal experience. For example, you will not learn about climate change by looking out your window. Personal experience cannot always do the trick. Even when anecdotes are appropriate, it's important to include the facts too. And I know these ideas seem obvious, but you know, conversations around bars, watching TV, has taught us that we really aren't the best science communicators. So giving these ideas some thought is helpful. And modern democracy requires scientific literacy. Not only do the challenges we face today require society-wide collective action, But public opinion has a huge idea on a huge impact on what gets funded. But I want to leave you on a positive note. Some media are finally coming around to the idea that we shouldn't have false balance. And there are organizations out there to help you become a better science communicator and to give you a social framework. Here in Baltimore, we have two groups that are skeptical. We have a social group that's well established, and we have a newer group that I'm working on that is trying to take a more activist role. So there's a place for you as a science communicator. And next time you're sitting at the bar and someone brings up the link between vaccines and autism, I hope you'll speak up.